High overhead in the summer dark, almost straight above you once the last warmth of the day is drained out of the air, a single white-blue spark hangs against the deep. It is brighter than nearly everything around it, cool and clean as a chip of ice held up to a candle, and it pulls the eye without ever seeming to ask. There is a star up there that spins so fast it has flattened itself into the shape of an egg. There is a thread of its light reaching your window tonight that set out from it a quarter of a century ago, before you had quite become the person you are now. And there is the strange, slow truth that this very star once marked the top of the turning world, and will mark it again in a future so distant that no road of imagining can reach its end. What would it feel like to watch a single point of light keep all of that inside itself and give no sign? Its name is Vega. It is the 5th brightest star in all the night sky, and on warm evenings it rides so high that you would have to tip your head all the way back to find it, the way you might lie in long grass and simply let the whole sky fall open above you. White, with the faintest breath of blue at its heart. So bright that early astronomers chose it, out of all the thousands of stars, to be the one they measured every other star against. The still point on the dial, the zero from which brightness itself was counted. You may have looked up at it 100 times on summer nights and never once known its name, never guessed how much it had to tell. There is nothing here you need to hold. No test waits for you anywhere on the far side of this night, no list to keep, nothing at all you must carry into the morning. Let these facts move through you, the way that old starlight moves through the dark, weightless, asking nothing, leaving only a faint warmth where they pass. Some will settle somewhere deep inside you and stay until morning. Most will simply pass on through and be gone, and that is exactly as it should be. Let your shoulders come down from wherever they have been holding. Let the small muscles around your eyes loosen and let go. You're only here to rest and to be carried, the way a far light is carried across an enormous dark toward a single open window. And there is nothing at all to do about any of this now, nothing to reach for, nowhere you need to be. There is only the warm dark gathered close around you, the soft give of the bed beneath your shoulders, and the slow weight of your own breathing, rising and falling like a distant tide too far away to hear. So let the eye climb that great height once more, up past the rooftops and the highest leaves, to where Vega burns alone near the roof of the night. To find it is the easiest thing in the world, once you know the secret of it. On any clear evening from late spring to the edge of autumn, 3 bright stars hang in the eastern dark and form an enormous triangle, wide enough to fill a whole reach of sky. Skywatchers have called it the Summer Triangle for as long as anyone can remember. And of those 3 corners, Vega is the brightest, the one your eye finds first without trying. The lead jewel in a figure so large that you could lose your whole spread hand inside it and still not touch the other points. Its 2 companions ride far across the dark from it, each a famous star in its own right, and together the 3 of them wheel slowly through the short summer nights, leaning west as the hours pass. You're not searching for some faint and hidden thing. You're looking for the brightest, highest, cleanest light up there, and letting the other 2 fall into place around it like the corners of a kite. Vega rules a small, neat constellation called Lyra, the harp, a little parallelogram of dimmer stars hanging just below the bright one, like a lyre set down in the grass beside a sleeping musician. In the old Greek stories, this was the harp of Orpheus, who played so sweetly that the rivers slowed to listen, and the wild animals lay down in peace, and even the stones of the hillside leaned in to hear. When his tale was over, the legend goes, his harp was lifted up into the heavens, with its brightest string set blazing at the very top. So the most brilliant light in that whole still corner of sky is, in the oldest telling, a single perfect note, struck once, still ringing softly across the dark thousands of years after the song itself has ended. The name you whisper when you name it comes down through a long chain of voices, all the way from the deserts of long ago. Vega is worn smooth from an old Arabic phrase that meant the swooping eagle or the falling vulture, a great bird folding its wings to drop through the night air. Some of the sky watchers of that time pictured a mighty bird up there with its wings tucked close, plunging down through the dark, and that one fierce white star was its keen and watching eye. Across all the long centuries between those first watchers and you, that name has held fast and never once let go. So when you say it now into the hush of your own room, you're sounding out a word that desert travellers carried under these very stars, a word older than almost anything you own. That brilliant point of light, calm as it looks from here, is in truth a furious thing. Vega is what astronomers call a white star, far hotter than our own yellow sun, and far whiter, burning at its surface with a fierce blue-white heat. To stand anywhere near it would be to stand inside a flood of light beside which an ordinary noon would look soft and golden and dim. It carries a little more than twice the mass of our sun, twice the gathered substance pressed into one glowing sphere, and it pours out close to 40 times as much light into the surrounding dark. From here, all of that ferocity arrives gentled almost beyond recognition, smoothed by distance into a single calm white spark you could cover with the tip of one finger. A great fire made peaceful by the long road home, and the road truly is long, though not so long as for most of the lights up there. The light touching your eyes tonight did not leave Vega this evening. It set out about 25 years ago, and has been crossing the dark every moment since, never stopping, never slowing, faithful as a letter that takes a quarter of a century to arrive. 25 years, a span you can feel in your own body, the length of a childhood, the time it takes a small person to grow up and walk out into the world. All through those years, that light was already on its way to you, before you had any idea it was coming. So the Vega you find tonight is not the star as it is now, but a soft message of how it once was, sent long ago and only just now arriving at this dark window, this quiet hour, these resting eyes. Put a number to that distance and it comes to about 25 light years. 25 of the longest, swiftest journeys imaginable, each one as far as light itself can travel in a single full year. And light is fast almost beyond belief, fast enough to circle the entire Earth many times over between two beats of your slowing heart. Take that unthinkable speed and stretch it across 25 unbroken years, with no rest anywhere in the crossing, and you begin to feel the true size of the gulf between you and that white flame so high above. As stars go, this makes Vega a near neighbour, one of the closest bright stars to us in all the heavens, and yet it is a nearness the mind cannot truly hold. So perhaps do not try to hold it. Let it simply be enormous, and let yourself be small and warm, and perfectly safe beneath it. Here is the first of Vega's true strangenesses, the one that would startle you most if you could draw near. This star spins. It spins so fast that it has lost the shape of a ball entirely. Where our own sun turns in a stately, unhurried way, taking the better part of a month to roll once around, Vega whirls through a full turn in less than a single Earth day, its equator racing around at a speed that would carry you across an ocean in the space of a few breaths. Nothing about it from here suggests such violence. It looks as still as a frozen drop of light, but it is one of the fastest spinning stars that human instruments have ever measured, turning and turning in the dark far faster than the world beneath you tonight. Spin a thing that fast and it cannot stay round. The whirling flings its own substance outward at the middle, the way a ball of soft dough flattens and spreads when it is spun, so that Vega bulges out around its equator and pulls in flat at its poles. Measured across its waist, it is nearly a fifth wider than measured pole to pole, a star pressed into the shape of an egg or a slightly squashed pearl, leaning into its own tremendous turning. The placid little dot you see holds a vast bright thing straining at the very edge of what a star can bear, almost flinging itself apart and never quite doing so. There is something steadying in that, a fury so perfectly balanced that from 25 light years off, it reads only as a single calm and unmoving point. Because it bulges so, the star is not even all one temperature. and this is the next quiet marvel folded inside it. The poles, drawn in close and packed tight, blaze hotter and whiter. The bulging equator, flung outward and stretched thin, runs noticeably cooler and a touch more golden. So a single star carries two different fires at once, a brilliant white-hot crown at top and bottom, and a warmer, softer band wrapped around its swollen middle, all of it shading one into the other without a seam. Astronomers have a name for this: gravity darkening, the dimming and cooling of the parts that a fast-spinning star flings farthest from its heart. One star, two temperatures, blending across its face like the colours of a slow dawn, and not one flicker of it betrayed by the small calm light that finds your eyes. By a fortunate accident of where it sits, you almost certainly see this strange spinning top not from the side but very nearly from straight above, looking down one of its poles as if peering into the still centre of a vast spun wheel. From that angle, the dizzying race of its equator turns edge-on and all but vanishes, and the whole furious thing presents you only its calm, bright pole, steady as a held breath. It is as though the star has turned its quietest face toward the earth, toward your part of the earth, and kept its wildness politely tucked away to the sides. The stillness you read in it is partly real, and partly a gift of your own point of view, the angle from which this one small world happens to gaze up. For all its fierce spinning and its great white heat, Vega is young, strikingly, surprisingly young. Our own sun has been burning for some 4.5 billion years and is comfortably middle-aged. Vega has been alight for only a few 100 million years, perhaps a tenth as long, a fresh young star by the slow reckoning of the heavens. White stars like this one live fast and burn hot, and do not last so very long, by cosmic measure, before their great store of fuel begins to run low. So you're looking at a thing in the bright morning of its life, blazing with the careless energy of the young, with most of its story still ahead of it in the dark. The light so high above you is, in its way, far younger than the ground you're resting on. Around this young, fast-spinning star there hangs one more secret, perhaps the loveliest of all. Vega is wrapped in a vast, faint disk of dust and tiny grains and fragments, a great flat ring of cool debris circling far out around it in the dark. It was the very first such disk ever found around any star anywhere, discovered when a telescope sensitive to heat looked at Vega and caught it glowing softly in a way no plain star should, warmed by an unseen halo of dust spread wide around it. The grains are thought to be the rubble left from countless small collisions far out in the cold, the slow grinding of comets and little worldlets, a ring not unlike the icy outer reaches of our own solar system, where the leftovers of making circle in the dark. Around that brilliant point you cannot quite resolve, an entire dusty ring turns in silence, holding the hint of worlds. That faint ring carries a whisper of possibility that has kept astronomers leaning closer for years. A disk of dust like that one is often the cradle and the leftover of planet making, the swept rubble of a young system that may be quietly assembling worlds, or have made them already, hidden far out in the cold. No one can say for certain what circles out there beyond the dust, but the raw material of worlds is present, spread wide around a star barely past its own beginning. So when you look up at that single white spark, you may be looking not at a lone fire, but at the bright centre of a whole young family of forming things, too far and faint to see, a small unfinished system, turning in the night beside its blazing sun. Long before any of that was known, this one star carried a quieter, humbler honour down here on Earth. For more than 100 years, Vega was the measuring stick of the sky, the single star against which the brightness of nearly every other star was set. Astronomers needed one steady, well-placed flame to call the 0 point, the baseline from which all the others would be reckoned brighter or fainter, and they chose this one. So when a star is described as having a certain brightness, that whole scale was anchored for generations to the light of Vega, as though every lamp in a great city were measured against one chosen window, glowing at a known and steady strength. A humble, useful task for so fierce a thing, to hold its place in the dark and simply be the standard by which all the rest were known. And the scale built upon it runs in a way that surprises almost everyone the first time they learn it. The numbers go backwards. The brighter a star, the smaller its number, so that the most dazzling lights carry the lowest figures, dipping even below 0, while the faint and the dim climb up into the larger numbers. It is an old inheritance, a habit kept from the ancient sky watchers who ranked the stars from first brightness down to 6th, and astronomers simply carried it forward and made it precise. So Vega, the chosen 0, sits almost exactly at the hinge of that strange reversed ladder, and the few stars that outshine it are counted in the territory below 0, brighter than bright, on the far side of nothing. There is a fitting reason it was chosen for the task, beyond its convenient brightness. Vega rides high in the northern sky, easy to find on clear nights for much of the year, and its light is clean and white and steady, without the strong colour of a red or orange star to complicate the measuring. It became, in a sense, the reference flame of the heavens, the candle in the window that all the other candles were compared against. For a long stretch of astronomy's history, to ask how bright a star was to ask quietly how it stood against the white fire of Vega. One star, lifted out of all the thousands, and given the simple, steadfast work of being the one that does not change. There is a deep, slow secret hidden in this star too that has nothing to do with its fire and everything to do with time. Vega was once the North Star, the star that stood almost exactly above the northern pole of the Earth, the still point around which the whole night sky appeared to wheel. Not in any history a person ever wrote down, but far further back, around 12,000 years before our own age, when the last great ice was only beginning to loosen its grip on the world. In that unimaginably distant dawn, anyone who looked north on a clear night would have seen Vega holding steady above the spinning sky, the lodestar of a world with no cities yet in it. The pole star you might know today had not yet taken up that post. Vega held it first. The reason for that slow change is one of the gentlest, grandest motions in all of nature. The Earth, as it spins, does not hold its axis perfectly still. It wobbles, very, very slowly, the way a spinning top leans and traces a wide, lazy circle with its tip before it settles. One full circle of that great wobble takes nearly 26,000 years to complete, and as the axis swings slowly round that vast invisible ring, the point in the sky it aims at drifts from one star to another across the ages, crowning each in turn as the North Star for a few thousand years before moving gently on. There is no haste in it anywhere. It is the slowest clock in the heavens, turning so gradually that a whole human life is far too short to see its hand move at all. So the throne above the pole comes round again, in the end, to every star along that great slow circle, including this one. Vega is not finished with being the lodestar. As that 26,000-year wobble carries on, the northern axis will swing slowly back toward Lyra, and around the year 14,000, give or take, this white spark will once again stand near the very top of the world, the pole star of a far-off age no one alive can picture. It held that seat long before the first stone was laid anywhere, and it will hold it once more long after everything now standing has worn down to dust. The same bright point, returning to its old high place, in a future as distant as its past. Let that vast turning ease you down a little deeper, the way the night itself seems to settle once you stop trying to stay awake. There is nothing to do with these enormous spans of time but rest beneath them. You will not be asked to measure the wobble of the Earth, or to remember which star wore the crown when. The body is growing heavier against whatever holds it. The breath has begun to lengthen on its own. You're doing nothing at all but lying still in the warm dark while a young white star turns high above an old slow sky. There is a small wonder in simply how that pole star throne is decided too, for the North Star is not chosen for being bright, but only for standing in the right place. It is a matter of pure position, of which star happens to lie nearest the point the Earth's axis aims at in a given age. Most of the time, that lucky spot holds no remarkable star at all, only some dim and ordinary light or a patch of near-empty sky. But every so often, as the long wobble turns, the aim drifts across a truly brilliant flame, and the world gets a pole star worth looking at. Vega is one of the few genuinely bright stars the axis ever sweeps across in its whole slow round. So when its turn comes, the head of the sky is not marked by a faint and forgettable point, but by one of the most dazzling lights in all the heavens. Picture that far future evening for just a moment, lightly, the way you might picture a place you will never go. The same wobble that once set Vega over a world of ice will set it over a world none of us can imagine. And a traveller then, lost on some open plain under the stars, would only have to find that brilliant blue-white point near the head of the dark to know exactly which way was north. No instrument, no map, just a single fierce, beautiful star doing the oldest favour a star can do for anyone wandering in the night, telling them, without a word, which way to turn for home. The same light you're gazing up at now, made into a compass for an age beyond all knowing. For now, though, Vega is not the pole star, and that small fact carries its own charm. Tonight, like nearly every other star, it does not hold still. It rises and wheels slowly across the heavens through the dark hours, and sets, swept along with all the rest by the great turning of the earth beneath you. On a summer evening you might find it low in the east after sunset, then watch it climb, hour by hour, until it stands almost straight overhead near the middle of the night, and then begins its long lean down toward the west before dawn. It is between two reigns just now, long since stepped down from its ancient throne, not yet returned to it, and so, for these few thousand years, it simply travels the sky with everything else, one more wheeling light in the slow procession of the night. When it does climb to its highest point, near the very crown of the sky, it reaches a place very few bright stars ever quite manage to find. For watchers across much of the northern half of the world, Vega passes almost directly overhead, so high that to see it well you must lie back or tilt your head until the whole neck stretches and gaze straight up into the deep. There is something rare in that. Most stars keep to the slopes of the sky, rising and arcing and setting along the sides. Few of the truly brilliant ones ever ride clean across the roof of the night. To find Vega near its height is to look not outward toward a horizon, but straight up, out of the very top of the world, into the open dark directly above your resting face. That high, clear light has guided more than dreaming eyes. It has guided machines through the night air as well. Because Vega is so bright, and sits so high, and holds so dependable a place in the northern sky, navigators and their instruments have long used it as one of the fixed points by which to find their way. A clean, reliable flame near the crown of the dark is exactly the kind of marker a traveller wants. Something that does not waver, does not hide, can be found again and again on any clear night and trusted to be just where it was. So this star has quietly helped carry ships across dark oceans and craft across dark skies, holding its bright place while the small lit things of the world found their bearings by it and pressed on toward morning. Among the stars near it in Lyra, Vega keeps company with a few quiet marvels of their own, scattered through that little harp-shaped patch of sky. Just a short reach away from it, to an eye that looks closely, hangs a pair of stars so evenly matched and so close together that they look at first like a single point split cleanly in two. And the deeper wonder is that each of those two stars is itself a close pair. 4 stars in all, woven into 2 slow-turning couples, the 2 couples drifting in a wider, grander circle around one another. Astronomers fondly call it the double-double. It is one of the most beloved small sights in the whole northern sky. 4 suns bound together by gravity, turning around each other in the dark in a dance within a dance, all blurred from this distance into one faint and unremarkable star. Tucked into that same small harp, hidden between two of its dimmer strings, floats one of the most beautiful objects in all the heavens, a perfect glowing smoke ring of coloured gas drifting in the black. It is the Ring Nebula, the cast-off outer layers of a dying star, breathed gently away into space and lit from within by the small hot ember that remains at its centre. Through a telescope it looks exactly like a faint luminous ring or a soft cosmic eye, hanging weightless against the dark. It is a glimpse of how a quiet star says goodbye, not with violence, but by exhaling its own outer self in a slowly widening ring of light. The same little constellation that holds brilliant young Vega holds just beside it, this gentle glowing ghost of a star already gone. Even the dimmer corners of the harp hold their own slow stories. One of Lyra's other bright stars is a strange and shifting thing, a pair of suns orbiting so close together that they nearly touch, streaming glowing gas from one to the other across the small gap between them, and dimming and brightening in a steady rhythm as they eclipse each other, turn by turn. Another nearby star is a swollen blue-white giant, far larger than our sun, marking a second corner of that little parallelogram. So the small frame of the harp, which the eye takes in at a single glance, is in truth a gallery of utterly different lives. A furious young spinner, a pair of stars trading fire, an aging giant, a perfect ring of dying breath, all gathered into one modest shape high in the summer sky. Vega's light has done one more thing that no other star's light ever did before it, and it is a tender little milestone in the long story of looking up. This was the first star, other than our own sun, ever to have its picture taken. On a summer night a very long time ago, in the early days of photography, astronomers pointed a great telescope at Vega and let its faint light fall, for a minute and a half, onto a polished plate. And there, when they were done, was the very first portrait of a star ever made by human hands. Before that night, every star that had ever existed had only ever been seen, and then remembered, and then lost again each morning. Vega was the first to leave behind a true and lasting image of itself, the first star ever to be held in any keeping after the dawn had washed it from the sky. It was among the first stars too to have its hidden light unfolded and read. When astronomers learned to spread a star's light out into its full band of colours, the way a raindrop spreads sunlight into a rainbow, Vega was one of the earliest they studied that way. Its white glow teased apart into a ribbon of colour crossed by fine dark lines, each line a faint fingerprint left by the gases burning in the star itself. From those quiet dark marks, people could begin to read what a distant sun was made of, how hot it burned, how fast it moved, all without ever leaving the ground. So this one star helped open the door to knowing the stars not just as lights, but as places, each with its own makeup and its own story written into its colours. Because Vega's clean white light came to be so well known and so carefully measured, it quietly became a kind of touchstone for understanding other stars as well. Its colour, its temperature, the exact pattern of those dark lines in its unfolded light, all of it was studied so thoroughly that Vega turned into a reference any astronomer could reach for, a known and trusted example of what a hot white star should look like. New and stranger stars could be held up against it and understood by the comparison. In this way too, that single high flame became a teacher of sorts, not by changing or by doing anything at all, but simply by being so steadily, so dependably itself that the rest of the sky could be measured against it. There is a quiet relief in that idea. This one steady thing the rest of the world is known by, and something in it loosens the shoulders. You do not need to be the thing that is measured, or the one doing the measuring tonight. You can simply be here, while far overhead a white star holds its steady place, and the whole sky leans on it without its ever knowing. There is nowhere at all you need to be but exactly here, beneath that calm, bright point, in the deep middle of the night. The colour of Vega is worth dwelling on, because it is rarer and lovelier than most of the lights you will ever notice up there. To the unaided eye it reads as a clean, cool white, the kind of white you see in a fresh snowfield or a single ice crystal held to a lamp. But a closer look reveals the faint blue at its core, the blue of the very hot. Most of the brighter stars scattered across the sky lean warm, toward gold or amber or a soft burning orange. Vega leans the other way, toward the cool blue-white end of things, and that coolness of colour is in truth the mark of fierce heat, for the hottest fires burn bluest of all. So its calm, icy hue is a kind of beautiful disguise, a thing that looks cool to the eye precisely because it is so tremendously, untouchably hot. There is a poetry in that small reversal, in a fire so hot it looks like ice. Down here, we learn to read red and orange as the hot colours and blue as the cold, and for the small fires of our own world that is true enough. But raise the heat of a thing high enough, far hotter than any flame you have ever stood beside, and its colour slides past red, past orange, past yellow and white, and on into a clean fierce blue. Vega glows near that blue-white extreme, so the gentlest looking light in your summer sky, that cool, clean spark you might call icy, is in fact one of the hotter surfaces you will ever lay eyes on, its coolness only a trick of how very, very hot it truly is. That fierce surface burns at a heat almost impossible to picture from inside a cool dark room, where our own sun glows at its surface at a temperature already far beyond anything earthly. Vega's surface runs hotter still, its bright poles blazing at something like 10,000 degrees, half again as hot as the sun's gentle yellow face. Stand anywhere near it and there would be no standing at all. Everything you know would simply turn to vapour and light, and yet all of that staggering heat, crossing 25 years of empty dark, arrives at your window tonight as nothing but a faint cool prick of white, too gentle even to warm the glass. The whole journey, it seems, is one slow and perfect cooling, a furnace at one end, and at the other, only a still small light to rest your eyes on. Vega belongs to a great family of stars sorted by exactly that colour and heat, and within it the star sits at a clean and well-marked place. Astronomers gather the stars into ordered groups by the colour of their light, running from the hottest blue-white suns down through white and yellow to the cool deep red, and Vega falls squarely among the hot white ones near the top of that scale. It is a main sequence star, a star in the long, steady, shining prime of its life, calmly fusing the fuel in its core and pouring the light out into the dark, exactly as our own sun does in its gentler, cooler way. So for all its strangeness, Vega is not some freak of the heavens, but a fine, healthy example of a whole common kind of star, simply caught in the bright fullness of its youth. Its place in that family made it, for a long while, the very definition of what a white star is. When astronomers needed a clear example of one particular class of hot white star, they reached again for Vega. So cleanly did it fit, so well had it been measured, that it became the standard the whole class was described by. To know that kind of star at all was in part to know this one. There is a quiet weight in that, in one flame standing for a whole multitude, as though, of all the white candles ever lit in the dark, this single one had been chosen to show what the rest of them meant. Even the steadiness people once trusted in Vega turned out to hold a tiny secret. For a long time it was taken to be perfectly constant, the unchanging standard, the flame that never wavered. But careful, modern watching has caught it shifting ever so slightly in brightness, by an amount far too small for any eye to notice, faint ripples in its light from the restless churning of its own outer layers. It is the gentlest sort of variation, the quiet breathing of a living star, nothing that would ever trouble a watcher on the ground. Still, there is something endearing in it, that even the star chosen precisely because it seemed to hold so still is, when you look closely enough, softly trembling all the while, alive and faintly stirring like everything else in the sky. And more recently still, astronomers found something on its face that no one had expected to see there. Faint markings on the surface, dim and bright patches drifting slowly across it as the star turns, the first such blemishes ever found on a plain white star of its kind. They are something like the spots that freckle the face of our own sun, signs of faint magnetism stirring in the star's outer skin. For a long time, stars like Vega were thought to have smooth, featureless surfaces, calm and unbroken. Now it seems even this one wears a slowly shifting pattern of pale and dim, a subtle weather all its own, turning into and out of view as the great sphere spins. The more closely it is watched, the more alive and particular it becomes. Far out around Vega, in that wide ring of dust, there sits another small mystery that has teased astronomers for years. A faint warm clump in the disk, a place where the dust seems gathered thicker than elsewhere off to one side. Some have wondered whether an unseen planet circles out there, its gravity quietly herding the dust into that uneven heap, the way a stone in a stream gathers leaves behind it. No one can say for certain, but the very shape of that dusty ring hints at something tugging on it from within, some dark and silent companion, too faint to see, shaping the bright debris around it by the simple pull of its weight. A whole hidden world, perhaps, betrayed only by the way the dust leans toward it in the dark. The disk itself spreads out to a truly enormous reach, far wider than the orbits of any planets we know. If you could set our own solar system down inside Vega's ring of dust, the whole familiar spread of our planets would gather near the centre of it, with the vast dusty disk reaching out many, many times farther still into the surrounding dark. It is a great cold halo, hundreds of times wider than the distance from our sun to its nearest world, turning in silence around that fierce blue-white centre. From far enough away it would look like a faint flat smudge of light wrapped around a bright point, a young star wearing a wide ring of its own leftover dust, like a single jewel set in a pale and enormous band. The dust in that ring is forever being made anew, which is a quiet wonder in itself. The tiny grains a star throws off should slowly drift away or fall inward and vanish over time, and yet Vega's disk endures, which tells astronomers that something out there must keep replenishing it, grinding fresh dust from the slow collisions of larger bodies, comets and rocky fragments knocking together far out in the cold. So the ring is not a still and finished thing, but a slow fountain, endlessly resupplied, each faint grain the powder of some small unseen collision in the dark. A halo of dust that looks utterly motionless, and is in truth always being remade particle by particle in the silent outer reaches of a young star's keeping. That endless gentle grinding out in the cold is the very same kind of process that, long ago, helped build the ground beneath you. Worlds like our own were assembled in part from just such a swirling disk of dust and rubble around a young sun, countless tiny grains drifting together, clumping, gathering, slowly piling into rocks and then into worlds over enormous spans of time. To look at Vega's dusty ring is to look at something like a portrait of our own beginning, frozen in an early chapter, the raw makings of worlds, still scattered and turning, before they have drawn themselves up into anything solid. The same slow gathering that once made the floor under your resting body is happening right now around that distant star. Sink a little further into that thought softly with nothing to do about it, nothing. The dust that became your world once drifted in a ring something like Vega's and settled, over ages too long to feel, into solid ground. And here you are now, resting your full weight upon it, held up by the patient end of an ancient gathering. There is nothing you need to understand about any of this. You can simply let the heaviness deepen in your limbs and let the breath go slow, and rest in the knowing that the ground beneath you was once a slow ring of dust around a star, much like the one turning now in the dark overhead. Look again at Vega and consider, lightly, just how much light it pours out, because the number is a beautiful one. This single star shines with the strength of something like 40 suns, 40 of our own daytime stars all blazing at once poured into one point of white fire high in the dark, and yet from 25 light years away, all of that floods down to you as nothing more than a calm, bright spark, gentle enough to gaze at for as long as you like. It is a strange and soothing arithmetic, 40 suns worth of fire smoothed by sheer distance into a single still light that asks nothing of your eyes but a moment's looking. Power past all imagining, arriving as the softest possible touch of brightness on a resting face. If you could somehow stand on a world circling Vega, the days there would be unlike any you have ever known. A sun half again as hot as ours, blazing blue-white instead of warm gold, would pour down a fierce and brilliant light, and shadows would fall sharp and strange beneath it. Such a sun would cross that alien sky far faster too, born of the stars' wild spinning. It is a place no soft and breathing thing could ever stand, and yet there is a kind of wonder in simply imagining it, this far brighter, bluer kind of day, lighting some unseen world out there in the dark, a different sun, a different sky, turning quietly around a star whose calm white spark you can hold in the corner of one drowsy eye. The fierce youth of Vega means its whole future will be swifter and shorter than our sun's, and there is a soft poignancy in that. Hot white stars burn through their fuel far faster than gentler yellow ones. They live brilliant, hurried lives and reach their endings sooner. So Vega, blazing now in the freshness of its youth, will not last the unhurried billions of years our own sun still has before it. In time, though a time still far longer than all of human history, it will swell and cool and change, and one day breathe out its own outer layers into the dark, much as that little ring nearby once did. But all of that lies impossibly far ahead. For now and for ages yet, it simply burns, young and white and careless, high in the summer night. There is something companionable in knowing that this same star has hung over every summer that ever was. The Vega you find tonight is the very one that shone over harvests and journeys and sleeping cities thousands of years gone, the same flame that guided travellers and crowned the pole of an ancient frozen world. It does not change in any way a human life could ever notice. Across all the generations of people who have lain back on warm nights and looked up, it has held its bright place high in the dark, asking nothing, marking nothing, simply shining. So when you find it now, you're joining a long, quiet company of upturned faces, stretching back further than any memory, all of them resting beneath the very same light. Let the eye soften and the gaze drift wider, out past Vega, to the great triangle it anchors. Its two distant companions in that summer figure are each a marvel in their own right. One of them, far across the dark, is a giant so luminous and so remote that its light has travelled across an almost unthinkable gulf to reach you, a beacon shining from much farther away than Vega, yet still bright enough to mark its corner of the sky. The other rides closer in, a swift spinning white star not so unlike Vega itself, near enough to be a true neighbour of ours. 3 brilliant lights set at 3 corners of an enormous triangle, each at its own depth in the dark, and your eye takes them all in together, flattened onto one black dome, as though they hung side by side. That flattening is itself a gentle illusion worth resting in. The stars of any pattern in the sky, the corners of the summer triangle, the strings of the little harp, the shape of any constellation you have ever traced, only seem to lie together on a single surface. In truth, they float at wildly different distances, some near, some staggeringly far, scattered through the deep at every imaginable remove. The eye, which cannot feel that depth, simply paints them all onto the inside of one dark bowl. So every figure you have ever found up there is a kind of beautiful accident of where you happen to stand. Stars that have nothing to do with one another, drawn into shapes only by a single point of view, here on this one small world. Knowing that, the patterns become, if anything, more tender rather than less. The harp of Lyra is not truly a harp. Its stars are strewn across vast and unequal distances and merely happen to fall from here into that pleasing shape. And yet people have seen a harp there for thousands of years and felt the old story in it and found comfort in the figure on countless dark nights. There is something lovely in that the mind reaches up into a scatter of unrelated lights and gently draws them into meaning, into music, into a shape it can love. The sky gives only the lights. Everything else, the harp and the eagle and the story, is the soft work of looking. Once each year, that little harp becomes the source of something delicate and fleeting, a soft rain of shooting stars. For a few nights in the middle of spring, faint streaks of light come flickering out of the dark near Vega, swift and silent, here and gone in less than a breath. They are called the Lyrids, named for the constellation they seem to fall from, and they are among the oldest showers of falling stars that anyone has ever written down, watched and recorded by sky watchers thousands of years ago, who saw the same brief streaks near the same bright star and set them down in their records. Across all that time, the little harp has gone on quietly spilling its handful of falling lights into the spring sky, year after year, faithful as the seasons. Those falling streaks are not stars at all, of course, and the truth of them is gentler than the name. Each one is a grain of dust, or a fleck no larger than a grain of sand, the cast-off crumbs of an old comet that swept through long ago and left a faint trail of debris drifting along its path. Once a year, the Earth, on its endless round, passes through that thin stream of crumbs, and the tiny grains burn up high in the air as brief flares of light. So, a Lyrid is the last bright moment of a speck of ancient comet dust, glowing for an instant as it meets the edge of our world, a small, soundless ending, mistaken for a long time for a falling star, and lovely either way. The comet that left those crumbs swings out on an enormous looping path that takes it away into the deep for centuries at a time before it returns. It last passed near us well over a century ago, and will not come again for hundreds of years more. Yet every spring the Earth still sweeps through the faint trail it left behind, and the little harp glimmers with its falling lights. There is a soft kind of patience in that, a visitor long gone, not due back for ages, and yet leaving behind a gift that arrives faithfully every single year, a brief shimmer near Vega to mark a passing that happened long before anyone now living was born. That cool white light slipping down to you has been travelling, remember, for about 25 years, and it will never once touch you the way it touched the dark between the stars. It has crossed a span so empty and so cold that for a quarter of a century it met almost nothing at all, just the faint thin wisps of space and the long, long dark. And then, at the very end of that enormous lonely crossing, it meets your eye. A soft landing after an unimaginable journey, the whole of its travels ending against a single resting face in a darkened room. There is a strange intimacy in that, in being the place a starbeam's long voyage finally comes to rest, after 25 silent years of falling through the night toward you. Consider too that the very same light leaving Vega right now will not reach the Earth until some 25 years from this night. Light setting out into the dark at this exact moment, bound for a version of the world you cannot yet picture. Someone may stand under these stars a quarter of a century from now and catch the beam that is leaving Vega tonight, while you lie here resting. The star is forever sending its light ahead into a future it will never see arrive, and forever showing us a past it has long since left behind. To look at it at all is to stand in the middle of that long delay, to receive the old light and to know the new is already on its way. That delay touches every star you've ever seen, and it makes the night sky a kind of gentle museum of the past. The light from each point up there left long ago, some a handful of years, some thousands, some longer still. So the sky you gaze into is never the sky as it is now, but a soft collage of many different pasts, all arriving together at this one present moment. Vega as it was 25 years ago, its triangle companions as they were far longer back, all woven into a single view above your face. There is no way to see the heavens as they truly are tonight. There is only this beautiful gathering of old lights, each carrying its own age, all of them landing gently on you at once. There is a strange ease in that rather than any trouble. The whole sky is, in a sense, already in the past. Nothing up there asks anything of you in the present, for it is all old light, finished journeys, messages long since sent. You need not keep up with any of it. You need only lie here and receive it, the way the dark receives the starlight, without effort, without reaching. And far above, a calm white spark goes on quietly arriving, 25 years late and perfectly on time. That nearness of Vega, only 25 years of light away, has made it, more than once, the chosen destination of human imagining. When a famous storyteller of the last century wanted to write a tale of a first message arriving from somewhere out among the stars, it was from Vega that he had the signal come. A faint, patterned pulse falling out of the dark from that one bright neighbour, picked up by listening dishes on Earth. There was a fitting logic in the choice. Of all the brilliant stars, this one is close and well known and easy to point to overhead. So in that story, the first word from the wider cosmos came not from some impossibly remote place, but from the familiar white spark high in the summer sky, as if the nearest bright window in the dark had been the one to light up first. It is only a story, of course, and the real Vega has sent us nothing but its faithful light. Yet there is something warming in the thought all the same, that when people dream of not being alone in the dark, they so often turn their gaze to this particular star, near and bright and steady, and imagine a message coming softly from it, as if its long reliability, its place at the head of the summer sky, made it the natural one to imagine speaking. The star itself knows nothing of any of this. It simply shines as it always has, while down here we weave our hopes around it and listen, half dreaming, for a word that has never come. Settle a little deeper now, into the warmth, into the dark. There is nothing to listen for tonight, no message to wait up for, nothing at all that needs your watching. The star will keep its place whether you attend to it or not. You can let the listening go and the watching go, and simply rest beneath that high white light, letting your breath slow and your thoughts grow loose and far apart, like stars scattering wider across a deepening sky. Vega does not hold perfectly still against the other stars either, though the change is far too slow for any night to show. Like every star, it is drifting through the great spread of the galaxy on a path of its own, and over enormous spans of time it slides very gradually across the sky, shifting its place against the more distant lights behind it. In 10 or 11,000 years its slow creep would carry it a noticeable distance, about the width of 2 full moons set side by side. So the harp we see is not a fixed and frozen shape, but a slow river of motion, every star within it sliding along its own track, the whole figure imperceptibly reshaping itself across the ages, far too gently for any single life to feel. This means the very constellations are temporary things, drawn for an eye that lives only a flicker of cosmic time. The shapes you can trace tonight, the harp, the great triangle, every familiar figure, are passing arrangements, slowly coming undone and reforming as the stars slide along their separate ways. Wait long enough, far longer than all of human history, and the harp would warp and spread until it was a harp no longer, and new shapes none of us will ever see would gather in its place. The sky is not a finished painting, but a scene caught mid-motion, frozen for the brief blink of our looking, and for this blink, this age, Vega gleams at its appointed corner, and the harp holds its lovely shape just for us. In its slow journey through the galaxy, Vega is moving at a fair clip by any earthly measure, sliding through space relative to our own sun at something like 12 miles every second. It is only the unimaginable distance that hides this great speed from us, that turns a furious rush into a creep too slow to see. Everything up there is in motion, the stars streaming past one another, the whole vast wheel of the galaxy turning, and yet to the eye the night is perfectly still, a fixed and silent dome. The calm you feel looking up is in part a mercy of scale. So much motion, so far away, that it arrives as the deepest stillness you will ever know. Vega may even have been born in company, travelling still with a loose scattering of sibling stars. Some astronomers think it belongs to a wide, loose stream of stars that may all have formed together long ago, out of the same great cloud, and have been slowly spreading apart ever since as they wander the galaxy. If so, then somewhere out there are Vega's faint and far-flung kin, stars born of the same cradle, now scattered across the sky, no longer close but still loosely travelling the same way through the dark. There is a soft thought in that, in a bright star with a quiet family somewhere among the other lights, easing apart over the ages yet still, in some slow sense, journeying together. That is how all the stars are made, after all. Not one at a time, but in great clutches, born together out of vast collapsing clouds of gas and dust, like a brood of bright siblings emerging at once from a single dark nursery. Over the long ages, the siblings wander apart, scattered by the slow stirring of the galaxy, until they are flung wide across the sky and no longer seem to have anything to do with one another. So nearly every star you see, including this bright one overhead, very likely began life in a crowd, among countless others, in a glowing cloud long since dispersed. The lonely seeming lights of the night were each, once one of many, born into a great bright company in the dark. That far company keeps you a kind of distant company now, as you rest. You're not so unlike a star in that, made, in the end, of the same handful of simple stuff, gathered out of old clouds, settled for a while into a particular shape. The thought asks nothing of you. Let it simply warm you, the way the knowledge of a sleeping household warms a person lying awake in it. You are a small gathered thing in a wide dark, resting easy, and so is the star, and so is everything between. There is nowhere to be tonight but here. Among all the stars that have ever been chosen to stand for something, Vega has been chosen more often than almost any other, and there is a quiet honour woven through that. The 0 point of brightness, the first star photographed, a standard of colour and of type, a pole star past and future, the lead light of the summer sky, the brightest string of the heavenly harp. Again and again, when astronomers and dreamers alike needed one star to mean something, to anchor a measurement, to mark a direction, to carry a story, their eyes have come to rest on this single high white flame. As though, of all the countless lights in the dark, this one had a particular gift for standing for things, and yet it does none of that on purpose. It does not know it is the 0 point, or the once and future pole star, or the harp string of Orpheus. It simply spins and burns and pours out its blue-white light, indifferent and serene, while down here a small thinking world hangs all of these meanings upon it. There is a deep calm in that thought, that the star asks for none of the importance we give it, carries none of the weight of our naming, and would shine in exactly the same way whether or not a single eye had ever found it. It is gloriously, restfully unbothered by all of it, turning in the dark for no one and for everyone. Think of how many different kinds of people have looked up and found this same star, across all the long reach of time. Desert travellers who named it for a falling eagle, the first watchers of an icebound world, taking their bearings from it near the top of the sky, sailors steering by it across dark water, astronomers letting its light fall for the first time onto a polished plate, children lying back in summer grass, asking which one is the bright one, and now you, here, in this quiet room, at the close of this particular day, the same star, the same cool white light, gathering all those upturned faces across the centuries into one long unbroken looking. Let yourself become, for tonight, simply the latest of them. One more face turned up toward an old and faithful light, asking nothing, holding nothing, only resting beneath it. You do not need to remember its distance, or its spinning, or the slow wobble that hands it the crown. You need only let it shine somewhere at the back of your softening mind, the way it shines high in the summer sky, steady, untroubled, and entirely content to be looked at by drowsy eyes that are beginning now to close. There is a curious comfort too in the sheer ordinariness of how Vega makes its light, for the fierce blue-white blaze is built from the same simple act that warms our own days. Deep in its core, light hydrogen is being pressed together into heavier helium, atom joining to atom under crushing weight and heat, and from that joining pours all the radiance that crosses the years to your eyes. It is the very same furnace that burns inside our sun, only larger and hotter and faster. So the dazzling stranger overhead and the familiar star that lights your mornings are, at heart, doing the identical thing. The same patient fusion, the same turning of small into great, the same long shining. The whole sky runs on that one quiet act, repeated in every star there is. And the light it makes that way takes a long, strange time to escape, which is a marvel few ever pause on. The energy born deep in a star's core does not simply fly out into space. It must work its way slowly outward through dense layers, absorbed and flung onward, again and again, for an enormously long time before it ever reaches the surface and leaps free into the dark. So the white light arriving at your window tonight was, in a sense, made in Vega's heart long before it even left the star. A deep, slow welling up, finally breaking the surface and crossing 25 years of space to find you. Light with a long memory, born in the dark centre of a star and only now, at the very end of a double journey, touching your resting eyes. Only 4 stars in the entire night sky shine brighter than Vega, which is why it stands out so easily once you know where to look. 4 other lights scattered across the whole turning sky outshine it, and after them comes this one, 5th in all the heavens, the brightest thing in its own broad reach of the summer dark. To be 5th out of the countless thousands the eye can find is to be very bright indeed. So when you pick it out overhead, you're looking at one of the small handful of truly dazzling stars, a light that has earned its place near the very front of that great bright procession simply by burning hot and sitting near. The exact brightness of Vega lands almost precisely on the round number that astronomers call 0, and there is a quiet poetry in that. It does not shine at some odd and awkward value, but settles so close to nothing at all on the scale that for a long while it was treated as the very definition of 0 brightness, the still hinge from which all other lights were counted up or down. A star that sits at 0 is a star that defines the middle of the meaning, the place where the measuring begins. So this one flame became, in a sense, the origin point of the whole brightness of the heavens, the spot where the ruler reads nothing, and everything else is measured out from there. There is a deeper reason astronomers loved it for that task, hidden in the evenness of its light. Vega shines with nearly the same strength across all the different colours a star can give off, its blue light and its yellow light and its red light all close to balanced, none running far ahead of the others. That rare evenness made it the perfect ruler, a flame that read the same no matter which colour you measured it by. Most stars lean strongly one way or another, redder or bluer, but this one holds an unusual balance across the whole spread of its light, so it became not just the 0 of brightness, but a kind of true white, against which the colours of all other stars could be weighed. Vega is larger than our Sun as well as hotter, though not by so very much, a sphere something like 2.5 times as wide across. Set the 2 side by side and our own star would look small and gold beside it, a modest warm lamp next to a larger, fiercer, whiter one. Yet by the standards of the great swollen giants out in the dark, Vega is still a compact and tidy thing, a star in the trim prime of its life rather than the bloated grandeur of old age. It is bigger than home, but not vast, a clean bright sphere of fire, a little larger than the sun that lights your days, turning so fast it cannot hold a perfect round. Among the very first stars whose true distance was ever wrested from the dark, Vega was one, and that makes it a quiet pioneer of human knowing. For most of history, no one had any idea how far away the stars truly were. They were simply lights, fixed to a dome of unknown depth. Then, by the most painstaking measurement of a star's faint yearly shift in place, a few of the nearest stars at last gave up their distances, and Vega was among that first tiny handful ever pinned down. It helped turn the night sky from a flat painted ceiling into a thing of real and measured depth, a vast room with stars set at known and varying distances within it. One of the first lights to tell us truly how far away it stood, and our own sun, with all its planets, and with you upon one of them, is moving, drifting steadily through the galaxy toward a point in the sky that lies remarkably close to Vega. The whole solar system glides forever in roughly that direction, toward a spot just a short reach from the bright star, so that Vega marks near enough the very heading of our long journey through space. You're not still tonight, not truly. You are being carried, with the sun and all its worlds, toward that quarter of the heavens, gliding ever onward, mile upon mile every second, in the broad direction of that calm white light overhead. There is something dreamlike in that thought, in the whole sun and its family sailing slowly toward the part of the sky where Vega gleams. It is as though that bright star hangs, very loosely, like a far lantern at the prow of an enormous ship. Not a destination we will ever reach, for it drifts too, and the distances are far too great, but a marker of the way we are headed all the same. So when you find Vega high overhead, you are looking more or less in the direction your whole world is travelling, out and onward, toward that bright and distant reach of the dark. Let that carry you rather than stir you. You do not have to steer, you do not have to do anything at all. You're already moving, gently, endlessly, with the sun and the earth and everything you have ever known, toward that far bright quarter of the sky. And all of it happens without the smallest effort on your part, while you lie here, perfectly still, and let yourself be carried. There is a deep ease in being borne along by something so vast and so slow. The body is heavy now. The journey makes itself. There is nothing to do but rest and travel and breathe. The little harp that holds Vega has a sweeter origin still, buried in the oldest tellings, for the lyre itself was born from a humble thing. The story goes that the very first lyre was made from the shell of a tortoise, its rounded shell strung across with strings to make the body of the instrument, the part that gathers and warms the sound. Two of the dimmer stars in Lyra still carry old names that mean simply the tortoise, a quiet memory of that first shell-bodied harp. So the brilliant string at the top, Vega, sings out over a frame that was, in the oldest dream of it, the rounded shell of a small, slow creature, lifted into the heavens with the rest of the harp. There is a tenderness in that image, in a humble shell becoming the body of the most beautiful music ever played. The tortoise, the slowest and most patient of creatures, gives up its rounded shell to become the warm hollow that carries a song. And then the whole instrument is set among the stars, with Vega blazing at its highest string, the smallest and slowest of things, transformed into music and then into light. There is a kind of gentle promise folded into the old story, that even the most ordinary earthbound thing can be lifted in the end into something luminous. Hermes, the old tales say, was the one who first strung that tortoise shell and drew music from it, before the harp ever passed to Orpheus. So the instrument that hangs in the sky beneath Vega has changed hands through the whole reach of the myths, fashioned by one, mastered by another, and finally set among the stars when its last player was gone. The harp you can trace on a clear night carries all of that long history in its faint dim strings, with the one brilliant note still ringing at its peak. A single instrument, passed down through gods and singers, and hung at last in the dark for anyone to find. That bright top string sits within one of the smaller patterns in all the sky, which makes its brilliance only more striking. Lyra is a modest little constellation, one of the lesser shapes by size, a compact figure you could hide behind two fingers held at arm's length, and yet, for all its smallness, it holds one of the most dazzling stars in the heavens, and a famous ring of dying breath and a beloved knot of 4 suns, and a rain of falling lights each spring, so much packed into so small a frame. The little harp proves that a corner of sky need not be large to be rich, that one small shape can hold a whole treasury of wonders with a brilliant white flame to mark it. Vega is bright enough to be found even from the heart of a glowing city, which not every star can claim. Where the lights of streets and buildings wash the faint stars from the sky and leave only a pale, dim dome, Vega still shines through, high overhead, clear and white, one of the few that the city's glow cannot quite drown. So even for those who live where the true dark is hard to find, this star remains a faithful companion, riding above the rooftops and the lit windows, holding its place where dimmer lights are lost. A bright friend that finds you even in the glow of a sleepless city, when almost all the others have faded out. Picture, for a moment, that same star seen from a truly dark place. A high meadow, a still desert, a quiet shore far from any lamp. There, where the city's glow cannot reach, Vega does not stand nearly alone but blazes at the head of a sky strewn thick with stars, the brightest jewel in an immense scattered field of them, with the faint river of the galaxy itself spilling past nearby. It is the same star you might find above a city street, only set now in its full and proper company, a dazzling point among 1,000,000 fainter ones, lording gently over a dark so deep and so crowded with light that it can take the breath away. The galaxy's own faint band, that pale river of distant stars, runs not far from Vega across the summer sky. On the darkest nights you can see it, a soft luminous mist arching overhead, the blended glow of countless stars too far and faint to tell apart, the great flat wheel of our own galaxy seen edge-on from the inside. Vega rides near the edge of that glowing river, a single, near and brilliant light against the misty crowd of the unimaginably distant. So in one glance you can hold both the near and the far at once, one bright neighbour star, and behind it the soft pooled light of 100 billion others, all turning together in the slow wheel of the night. That soft river of light reminds the eye of just how many stars there truly are beyond the few bright ones we name. For every dazzling point like Vega that the eye picks out and gives a name, there are countless millions more, fading off into that misty band and far beyond it, more stars than all the grains of sand on all the shores of the world. Vega is simply one of the nearest and brightest, one we happen to be able to see clearly and call by name. Out past it, the dark goes on and on, filled with uncountable other suns, most of them forever nameless to us, each one a fire much like this one, burning quietly in the deep. That vastness can rest in you as something soothing rather than dizzying. You do not have to count the stars or name them or hold their numbers in your mind. They are simply there, beyond all counting, scattered through a dark so wide it has no edge you could ever reach. And you are here, small and warm and safe beneath the very nearest handful of them. There is a deep comfort in being so little against so much, in resting beneath a sky too large to grasp, with nothing before you but the slow rise and fall of your own breath. Vega's light, for all its long journey, arrives still carrying the precise colour it was born with, and that colour tells its whole story to anyone who knows how to read it. The blue-white of it speaks of fierce heat. The steady pattern hidden in it speaks of the gases it is made from. The faint shift of that pattern would speak, to a careful eye, of how the star moves. All of that, written into a single thread of light, survives the 25-year crossing intact and lands on your eye unspoiled. So the light is not only beautiful but full of news, a long letter from a distant fire, every line of it still legible after a journey of 1/4 of a century through the empty dark. It was by reading such hidden patterns in starlight that people first learned the stars were made of the very same stuff as the earth and the sun. Spread out Vega's light, and the dark lines crossing it name the familiar elements burning in its surface, the same kinds of matter that make up the ground, the air, your own resting body. The stars, it turned out, were not made of some strange celestial substance, but of the ordinary elements we know, simply gathered into enormous fires. So Vega, like every star, is kin to the world you lie upon, built from the same handful of materials, only lit and vast and very far away. The whole sky and the whole earth made of one shared set of things. This is the deep and quiet truth that starlight finally gave us, that we and the stars are made of the same few ingredients, born of the same long cosmic story. The matter in Vega and the matter in your own body trace back in the end to the same origins, the simple stuff of the early universe and the heavier elements forged inside generations of stars and scattered out into space. To look at Vega is to look at a distant cousin of a kind, a far bright relative made of the same materials as everything you know. There is a soft belonging in that nothing up there is truly foreign, that the brightest stranger in the sky is built from the same small set of things as the ground, the sea, and you. Rest in that belonging for a moment, lightly, with nothing to do about it. You're not separate from the sky you're gazing into. You're made of the same ancient stuff, born of the same long unfolding, kin to the very light you're watching. There is no need to reach toward the star or to understand it, or to keep any of this. You can simply lie here, one small gathered piece of the same great story, and let the knowing warm you, that you and the light above belong in the end to one and the same world. The breath is slow, the body is heavy, you are home, and so is the star. The disk of dust around Vega was found not by seeing it, but by feeling its warmth, and that is a lovely turn worth dwelling on. The dust itself is far too faint and far too cold to show up as any visible glow. Instead, it gives off a soft heat, an invisible warmth that special instruments can sense. When a telescope built to feel that kind of warmth turned toward Vega, it caught the gentle heat of the unseen dust shining out around the star, and so the ring was discovered not by any light the eye could catch, but by its faint and patient warmth in the dark. A whole vast halo found by the warmth it gave off, like a banked fire sensed in a darkened room. That discovery opened a whole new way of seeing, for once one such dusty ring was found, astronomers went looking and found many more around other stars. Vega was the first, the one that showed the way, and the stars later found to where similar rings of dust came to be spoken of fondly by reference to it. Vega-like they were called, after the star that led astronomers to the whole idea. So this one flame did not merely wear a ring of its own, it taught us that such rings exist at all, and gave its name to a whole company of dusty young stars scattered across the sky. A discovery that began with a single warmth and grew into a new kind of looking. The grains in that ring are extraordinarily fine, not gravel or stones for the most part, but a fine dust, like smoke, or like the finest flour, or like the soft motes you see drifting in a shaft of afternoon light. Countless tiny particles, each far smaller than a grain of sand, spread thin across an enormous reach of space, and turning slowly around the star. If you could somehow stand within that ring, you would likely see nothing at all of it up close, only the faintest haze, and yet gathered across its vast width, all those motes together catch and scatter enough light and warmth to betray the whole ring's presence from 25 light years off. The very small, made visible only by the very wide. Imagine the silence out there, in that far cold ring of dust, turning slowly around its blazing star. No sound could ever cross it, for there is nothing out there to carry sound, only the thin scattered motes, drifting in the long, dark, lit faintly blue-white from the fierce star at the centre. It is one of the stillest, quietest places the mind can picture. A vast, slow halo of dust, wheeling in perfect silence, far from the heat and light of the star it circles, out where the cold is deep and the dark is almost total. A great calm ring at the edge of a young star's keeping, turning and turning with no one to hear. Let that far silence deepen the silence around you now. Out there, the dust turns without a sound. In here, the room is hushed, and your breath has gone soft and slow, and the day's small noises have all fallen away. You're as still as that distant ring, resting in your own pool of quiet, while far above the star blazes on, and the dust wheels around it in the dark. There is nothing you need to listen for, nothing you need to say, only the deep, soft silence, holding you as gently as it holds the slow ring of dust around Vega. The whole story of Vega, gathered together, is the story of a thing caught in its bright beginning. Young, fierce, fast, ringed with the raw makings of worlds. Everything about it speaks of a star near the dawn of its life, the fresh blue-white heat, the wild spinning it has not yet had time to lose, the disk of leftover dust still circling, the hint of planets perhaps still gathering in the cold. It is a portrait of a star's youth, hung high in the summer sky, where most of the stars we know are older and calmer and more settled. To find Vega is to look upon a young thing, blazing with the careless brilliance of the newly made, with the whole long arc of its life still spread out ahead of it in the dark. And in that youth there is a kind of kinship with every beginning, every fresh and unfinished thing. Vega has barely started its long story. Its planets, if they come, are not yet finished. Its ring of dust is still settling, still being made. There is something hopeful in a star so early in its life, so full of what is yet to come. It will change in time as all stars do, but not for ages and ages far beyond any reckoning that touches us. For now it simply blazes, young and unfinished and full of promise, while down here you rest beneath it, carried gently toward your own night's sleep. Far, far ahead, when its long youth is finally spent, Vega will follow the same slow path that the little ring nearby has already walked. It will swell and cool and shed its outer layers into space in a widening glow, and leave behind only a small, dense ember of its old self, a faint hot coal where the great white fire once burned. That ending is unimaginably distant, longer off than the whole age of life on Earth. But it is written, faintly, in the nature of the star, a brilliant youth now, and someday, in the deepest reach of the future, a quiet fading into a small bright ember and a ring of cast-off light. The same gentle ending that waits, in the end, for so many of the stars. There is no sadness in that, only the long soft rhythm of how the heavens work. Stars are born and blaze and in their own unhurried time grow old and let go their outer light and settle into embers, and from the dust of their endings, new stars and new worlds are someday gathered. Vega is simply somewhere near the start of that long round, blazing in its youth, with its ending so far off it need not trouble anyone tonight. It is a single turn of a wheel that has turned countless times before, and will turn countless times again, and there is a deep calm in being a small witness to so patient a cycle. Hold none of it tightly. The star's youth, its far-off ending, the long slow wheel of the generations of stars, let all of it move through you and pass on, like the light itself, asking nothing, leaving only a faint warmth. You're not here to keep the story, only to rest inside it for a little while. The wheel turns whether you watch or not. The star blazes whether you remember or not, and you may let your eyes stay closed and your breath stay slow and simply be carried, one small resting thing, by the same long gentle turning that carries the stars. There is one last small intimacy in Vega's light, worth holding as the night deepens. The very beam reaching your eye tonight is yours alone. These particular threads of light, after their 25-year crossing, end their whole long journey precisely here, against your own resting eyes, and nowhere else. Other beams from the same star fan out across all of space, but these few, the ones you catch, complete their voyage on you. So in a small and literal way, you are the destination of a quarter-century's travel, the place where this thread of an ancient fire finally, quietly comes to rest. A long journey, ending gently, just for you. The first time anyone unfolded Vega's light and captured the secret pattern hidden in it was another tender milestone in the long history of looking. Some years after that first photograph of the star, an astronomer managed to spread Vega's glow into its full ribbon of colour and fix that ribbon, with all its fine dark lines, onto a lasting plate. The first time the hidden signature of any star had ever been caught and kept that way. Before then, those faint dark lines could only be glimpsed and described. Now one star's full coded message had been held still and saved, and it was Vega's. So this single flame was not only the first star ever photographed, but among the very first to have its inmost light read and recorded. Twice a pioneer in the slow human reaching toward the stars. That hidden pattern in a star's light is a kind of fingerprint, and no two are exactly alike. The particular set of dark lines crossing Vega's colours marks it out as precisely the kind of star it is, names its heat, its makeup, its character, as surely as a fingerprint marks out a single hand. By reading that signature, an astronomer who had never seen Vega could know it for a hot white star, could place it among its kin, could tell its story without ever being told. So the light pouring onto your eye carries not just brightness and colour, but a full and faithful account of the star it came from, written in a code that took us centuries to learn to read. Vega is what astronomers, in their gentle and slightly misleading way, call a dwarf star, and there is a small charm in that, for it is larger than our sun. The word does not mean small in the ordinary sense. It simply marks a star that is living the long, steady, ordinary phase of its life, fusing its fuel in its core, as opposed to the swollen giants of old age. Our own sun is a dwarf by that reckoning too. So Vega is a dwarf that is bigger and hotter and brighter than the star that lights your days. A reminder that the words astronomers use are their own quiet language, and that calling a thing a dwarf up there is only a way of saying it is in the fullness of its prime. The fierce spin of Vega, so unlike our own slow sun, sets it apart from the gentle star we know best. Our sun takes the better part of a month to turn once on itself, rolling so slowly that you could never feel it move. Vega rushes through a full turn before a single day is out, a whirling so swift it has reshaped the entire star. To stand the two side by side would be to see a stately, unhurried sphere beside a flattened, racing top, both of them stars, both of them fusing the same fuel, yet living at utterly different speeds. The calm light you see hides one of the most restless spins in all the nearby sky. Because Vega spins so fast and is tipped so nearly pole on toward us, the face it shows the Earth is its bright, hot pole, and this makes it look even more brilliant than it otherwise would. The poles of such a star, drawn in tight and blazing hottest, pour out more light than the cooler stretched equator, and it happens to be a pole that is turned toward us. So in a sense, the star is presenting us its most dazzling side, its brightest aspect, by sheer chance of angle. The fifth brightest light in all the sky is partly so bright to our eyes because of how it happens to be tilted, showing this one small world its most radiant face. There is a strange grace in that, in a star that turns its hottest, brightest pole toward the Earth as though by some quiet courtesy. It owes us nothing, and knows nothing of us, and yet the accident of its tilt means we catch it at its most luminous, its fierce pole aimed almost straight down the line to our eyes. Had it leaned another way, we would see its cooler flank and it would seem a little dimmer in our sky. Instead, it offers us its brilliant crown, a gift of pure geometry, freely given, never intended, the star at its brightest, simply because of how it leans. The great triangle that Vega leads is a creature of the warm months, and watching it is a way of reading the season in the sky. It climbs into the evening dark as spring gives way to summer, rides high through the short warm nights, and leans westward into autumn before it finally sinks away, so that to see that wide figure overhead is to know, without a calendar, that the warm season is upon the world. For as long as people have looked up, the rising of that triangle has meant the same thing: long days, short nights, the soft, warm dark of summer. Vega is its herald, the first bright corner to climb the eastern sky, announcing the season simply by appearing. From far enough north on the Earth, Vega scarcely sets at all, circling instead around the high sky through the whole night. For watchers in the northern lands, the star sweeps low across the north near the horizon, and back up again without ever quite dipping out of sight, wheeling endlessly around the pole. So in those places it is a near constant companion, present in some part of the sky on every clear night of the year, never fully gone. A faithful light that, the farther north you stand, comes closer and closer to never leaving the sky at all, turning forever around the cold high pole. The brightness scale that Vega anchors climbs in a strange and lovely rhythm, where each step is not added but multiplied. A difference of one rung on that ladder of brightness is not a fixed amount of light, but a fixed proportion. Each brighter step more than twice as luminous as the one below it, so that the scale leaps upward in great folding bounds rather than even paces. It is built that way to match the eye, which itself senses light in proportions rather than sums. So the gentle ladder of starlight with Vega near its zero is a ladder of multiplying steps, a quiet piece of mathematics hidden in the simple act of saying one star is brighter than another. That the eye senses light by proportion is itself a small marvel worth a moment. Your own eyes can take in the faintest glimmer of a distant star and the flood of a bright lamp without being overwhelmed, because they respond not to the raw amount of light but to its relative change, folding an enormous range of brightness into something the mind can comfortably hold. It is why a single candle can seem bright in a dark room yet vanish in the noon sun. So the very scale astronomers built around Vega is shaped to fit the gentle, proportional way your own eyes drink in the light of the world, the stars measured in the same soft rhythm by which you see. Vega's light arrives gentle enough to gaze at, yet it is one of the most powerful single points your eye will ever take in. There is a soft paradox in that something so safe to look upon, so calm and small and cool against the dark, is in truth a fire of staggering force, pouring out the light of dozens of suns. The danger of it is entirely undone by distance. The 25 years of empty space between you and it have smoothed all that ferocity into a thing you can rest your eyes on as long as you like. Great power, made harmless by sheer remoteness. A furnace you can gaze at the way you might gaze at a far candle in a window. That same softening happens to every fierce thing in the night sky, which is part of why the stars are so restful to behold. Each one is a roaring fire, unthinkably hot, violent beyond imagining up close. And yet, seen across the vast distances of space, every one of them arrives as nothing but a small calm point, gentle enough to soothe a tired eye. The whole blazing, furious sky is gentled by distance into a field of quiet lights. So the peace you feel looking up is real, and it is also a kind of mercy of scale. All that fire so far away that it reaches you only as stillness and soft light. There is something in that worth carrying lightly towards sleep. The way the fiercest things, given enough distance, arrive as the gentlest. The star that would burn away everything it touched up close is, from here, only a soft point to rest your gaze upon. Perhaps there is a quiet kindness folded into the size of the universe itself, that it sets such fires so far off that they can do nothing but comfort us, shining down as still small lights on the dark. Whatever blazes out there blazes harmlessly, for us, across an ocean of space too wide for any of its fury to cross. The space between you and Vega is emptier than almost anything the mind can picture, and there is a deep stillness in that emptiness. For 25 years the light crossed a near-perfect void. No air, no dust to speak of, no sound, almost nothing at all but the thin dark and the faint scattered reach of space. It is one of the emptiest, stillest things there is, that long corridor between the stars, and the light fell through all of it without meeting a single thing to stop it. So the beam that lands on your eye has come through an immensity of quiet so complete that the silence of your own dark room is only the faintest echo of it. Out in that great emptiness, the light travelled at the only speed there is for light, the fastest anything can ever go, and yet still slow enough that the crossing took 25 long years. There is a humbling scale in that. Nothing in all the universe moves faster than that light, and even so it needed a quarter of a century simply to reach the very nearest bright stars. The distances out there are so enormous that even the swiftest thing there is crawls across them, taking years and years to span the gaps between near neighbours. The light is impossibly fast and the dark is impossibly wide, and the one is humbled by the other. To feel that speed, picture light leaving the earth and racing outward. In a single second it could circle our whole world several times over, flashing around the entire planet between one breath and the next. That is how fast the light from Vega is moving as it falls toward you. And yet, set against the gulf it must cross, even that blinding speed becomes a slow and patient creep, 25 years long. The very same swiftness that would carry it around the earth in an eye blink needs decades to cross the dark to the nearest stars. Fast beyond all feeling, and still humbled by the size of the night. The number that names Vega's distance, that span of about 25 years of light, is small only by the measure of the stars and enormous by every other. It is among the nearest of all the bright stars, a close neighbour in the grand reckoning of the galaxy. And still it lies so far that no ship anyone could build would reach it in many thousands of lifetimes. So far that its light spends a human generation simply arriving. Near and unreachably far at once. That is the strange double nature of even our closest stellar neighbours, close enough to be called near, far enough to be forever out of reach. Knowing that, the night sky becomes a thing to be received rather than crossed, and there is rest in that surrender. You will never journey to Vega, nor will anyone for an unimaginably long time. The distances forbid it utterly. But its light comes freely to you, crosses all that dark of its own accord, and lays itself gently on your eye without your moving an inch. So the proper way to meet a star is not to reach for it, but simply to receive it, to lie still and let the old light arrive, as it has always arrived, asking nothing, requiring no journey but its own. The sky comes to you. You need not go to it. The faint, dim stars that make up the body of the harp beneath Vega are worlds unto themselves, each with its own long story, though the eye lumps them together as a single quiet shape. Every one of those dimmer points is a sun in its own right, near or far, young or old, some of them double or stranger still, a whole scattered crowd of suns that merely happen, from here, to fall into the outline of a harp. The shape is one thing, the stars within it are another, each utterly its own. So even the modest frame of the little harp is, looked at closely, a gathering of separate fires, drawn into one figure only by the soft work of the eye. The constellation we call Lyra has been seen as a harp for thousands of years, but other peoples, under the same stars, saw other things, and there is a gentle reminder in that. Some looked at that same little cluster and saw not a harp but a great bird, an eagle or a vulture with its wings folded, which is why the brightest star there still carries a name that means the swooping eagle, even though we call the whole figure a harp. So the very same lights have been a harp to some, and a bird to others, the shape shifting with who was looking. The stars hold still, only the stories change, drawn fresh by each people who gazed up and made meaning of the dark. There is a soft freedom in knowing the shapes are ours to make, not fixed in the sky itself. The stars offer only their scattered lights. Every figure traced among them, harp or eagle, hunter or bear, is the work of human looking, a pattern laid gently over the dark by the mind that gazes into it. You could, if you wished, find your own shapes up there tonight, your own quiet figures among the lights, as true as any of the old ones. The sky does not insist. It simply shines and waits and lets each looker draw upon it whatever meaning brings them peace. Vega has watched over the whole long story of human looking up, from the first wondering glances to the finest measurements, and it shines now exactly as it shone then. The earliest people who ever lifted their eyes to the dark saw this star. So did those who first gave it a name, and those who first measured its distance, and those who first caught its light on a plate. Through all of that long unfolding, it has not changed in any way, and I could see the same brightness, the same cool white, the same place near the top of the summer sky. It is a thread of constancy running through the whole restless history of our looking, faithful and unchanging, while everything down here was born and grew and passed away, past. When you find it tonight, you join the very newest end of that long thread, and there is a quiet belonging in taking your place there. All the watchers who came before you looked up at this same light and felt some version of the same wonder, and now you look up too, the latest in an unbroken line stretching back beyond all memory. Nothing is required of you but to look as they looked and to feel what they felt. That small soft astonishment at a bright star in the dark. You're not the first to rest your eyes on Vega, and you will not be the last, and there is comfort in being simply one of so many. The light you receive tonight will be gone in an instant, replaced at once by the light just behind it, in an endless gentle stream. Starlight does not arrive all at once and stop. It pours continuously, a ceaseless soft river of it falling on the earth, each moment's light giving way to the next without a break. So the beam on your eye is forever being renewed, an unbroken flow from a fire that has been pouring out light for hundreds of millions of years and will pour it out for ages more. You're bathed in a steady stream, not a single ray, washed in the constant quiet falling of an ancient light. That ceaseless pouring has been going on far longer than there have been eyes to catch it, which is a humbling and soothing thought. For most of Vega's long life, its light streamed out into a dark with no one anywhere to see it, falling on empty space, on lifeless worlds, on the long ages before anyone looked up. Only in the last flicker of its existence has there been a single eye to receive any of it, and tonight, yours is one of those eyes, catching a thread of a light that has been faithfully shining, mostly unwitnessed, since long before your kind began. A fire that needed no audience, shining anyway, all that time. There is a deep and easeful humility in being so brief a witness to so long a light. The star has shone for ages beyond counting, and will shine for ages more. Your looking is the smallest flicker within that vast span, a single night near the very end of a story hundreds of millions of years long, and yet for this one night, you are here to see it, to add your small moment of looking to the endless pouring of its light. There is nothing you must do with the privilege but receive it. Lie still, and let the old light fall on you, and be, for this little while, the eye it finally reached. Out at the inner edge of Vega's ring of dust, astronomers have noticed a swept and emptier space, a clearing where the dust thins out close to the star, and it hints at something quietly at work. Such a gap is often the mark of an unseen world, a planet circling there and sweeping its path clear of debris, the way a careful hand might clear a ring in scattered sand. No one has glimpsed any such world directly. It remains a possibility, written only in the shape of the dust. But the cleared space is there, an inner hollow in the great dusty ring, and it whispers that something may be turning quietly within it, gathering the dust to itself and leaving a clean, dark lane behind. To picture a young world out there, sweeping its slow orbit through the cold and the dust around Vega, is to glimpse our own deep past from the outside. Our Earth, too, once swept its path clear through a disk of debris around the young sun, gathering up the scattered grains as it went, clearing its own lane in the dark, and grew, over ages, into the solid ground beneath you. So that faint cleared space in Vega's ring may be an early echo of how your own world began, a young thing circling, sweeping, slowly building itself from the dust it gathers, the beginning of a world, perhaps, frozen in a chapter we lived through ourselves long ago. The slow wobble of the Earth that hands the pole from star to star does something else too across the long ages. It slowly changes which stars a place can see at all. As the axis swings round its great circle over the millennia, stars that once climbed high in a region's sky sink lower, and others that were hidden rise into view, the whole visible dome shifting by slow degrees. A star that grazes the horizon for one age may ride high in another, or vanish below the edge entirely. So the sky over any single place is not fixed forever, but drifts very gradually across the long turning. And Vega's height in the heavens, the very path it traces each night, slowly changes too, over spans far longer than any memory. Far in the future, as that wobble carries Vega back toward the pole, the star will climb higher and higher in the northern sky until it scarcely sets at all for much of the world, wheeling near the top of the dark through the whole night. A watcher then, in lands where now it only rises and sets, would find it a near constant presence, circling high and never quite leaving the sky. The same star you watch climb and fall tonight will, in that distant age, become an almost unsetting light, turning forever near the crown of the heavens. Its whole manner in the sky will have changed, though the star itself will be the same. The matter that makes up Vega and the matter that makes up you were both forged in the long unfolding of the cosmos, and in that we are quietly kin to the star. The simplest stuff of it came from the early universe. The heavier elements that thread through everything were cooked in the hearts of stars and scattered out to make new things. You're made of that scattered star stuff down to your very bones, and so, in its way, is Vega, gathered from the same long-enriched clouds. To look up at the star, then, is to look at a distant relative made of the same ancient ingredients, born of the same vast story. There is a soft belonging in that, a sense that nothing up there is truly a stranger. The faint band of the galaxy that runs near Vega is our own home seen from within, and that is a strange and lovely thing to hold. We live inside a great flat wheel of hundreds of billions of stars, and when we look toward its crowded plane, we see that pooled soft glow arching across the night, the combined light of countless suns too far to tell apart. Vega is one of the near ones, close enough to shine clear and bright. The misty river behind it is the vast crowd of the far ones, the body of the galaxy we're all embedded in. So in one upward glance you take in both your bright neighbour and the dim enormity of the home you have never left. To stand on the earth and look up at the galaxy's band is to be a part of a thing gazing at itself, which is a quiet marvel. We are made of the stuff of this galaxy, born within it, never having left it, and through us, in some small way, the great wheel of stars has come to look upon its own faint light arching overhead. Vega shines within that view, one bright point among the near ones, while behind it the soft glow of the whole turning galaxy spills across the dark. You're inside the very thing you're watching, looking out at the home that made you, with a bright near star to mark your gaze. Vega's steady, dependable light still serves the machines we send out into the dark, which is a fitting modern echo of its old role as a guide. Among the bright stars a spacecraft can lock onto to find its bearings, this one is often chosen. Clear, well-placed, reliable, a fixed point by which a drifting craft can know which way it faces in the void. So even now, far above the world, small-built things steady themselves by the light of Vega, just as sailors once did on dark seas. The star that guided travellers across ancient deserts and waters guides our machines across space, the same faithful flame pressed into the same old service of helping the lost find their way. There is a long unbroken line in that, from the first wanderer who steered by Vega to the newest craft that locks onto it in the dark. For as long as anyone has needed to know which way to turn beneath the stars, this bright, dependable light has been there to help, a fixed mark in a shifting world, trusted age after age to hold its place and point the way. The tools have changed beyond all recognition, from a traveller's naked eye to an instrument aboard a ship of space, but the star is the same, and the service is the same, to shine steadily and let the lost take their bearings and help them on toward where they're going. The light arriving on your eye tonight began its crossing a full quarter of a century back, and it is worth feeling just once how that maps onto a life. Somewhere in your own past, 25 years gone, this very light left the star while you were younger or smaller, or not yet quite yourself. The beam was already crossing the dark toward this exact night. It has been travelling all the years you have been living, faithful and unhurried, aimed without knowing it at this room, this hour, these resting eyes. And now, at last, it arrives. An old light, set out long ago, completing its journey precisely as you settle down to sleep. There is something quietly moving in that meeting of two long journeys, the lights across 25 years of empty space, and yours across 25 years of an ordinary life, both of them ending here, together, in this one still moment. Two slow travellings, begun far apart, arriving at the same gentle point. A beam of starlight and a tired person meeting in the dark. The star knew nothing of it, aimed at no one, sent its light out blindly into the night. And yet here it lands, on you, exactly now, as though the whole long crossing had been, in some small way, a journey home to this single quiet room. Receive it gently then, this old light at the end of its road, and let the meeting be enough. A star's light asks only to fall on you. There is no way to keep it, no need to keep it, only this brief soft landing of an ancient fire on a resting eye. It asks nothing in return for its long journey. It only arrives and shines for a moment against your gaze, and is replaced at once by the next beam behind it, in the endless gentle pouring that has crossed the dark to find you. An old light, faithfully arriving, with nothing wanted and nothing owed. The great triangle that Vega leads is not empty inside, but cradles some of the richest starfields of the whole summer sky. The faint glowing river of the galaxy runs straight through it, so that the wide space framed by those three bright corners brims with soft scattered light and tiny dim constellations tucked between them. A little arrow, a small fox, faint figures almost lost in the misty crowd. So the triangle is less a bare frame than a window onto the deep, with Vega blazing at one corner and behind it a whole field of fainter wonders spilling across the dark. To find the triangle is to find a doorway into the crowded heart of the summer heavens. Turn the picture around, and there is a humbling thought folded into Vega's brightness. For from a world circling that star, our own sun would be nothing but a faint and ordinary speck. Set among the stars of that far sky, the sun that fills your days and lights your whole world would dwindle across 25 years of distance to a dim point barely worth a name, lost among countless others. The star that seems so mighty to us would be, from there, just one more faint light in a crowded dark. So brightness is always a matter of where you stand, and the dazzling Vega and the modest-seeming sun would simply trade places were you to cross the gulf between them. There is a gentle levelling in that, in knowing that every brilliant star is some far world's faint speck, and every faint speck some near world's blazing sun. Vega leads our summer sky only because we happen to lie close to it. From elsewhere it would fade and other stars would take the lead. The whole ranking of the lights is a thing of position, of where the looker happens to be. No star truly grander than another, only nearer or farther, brighter or dimmer by the accident of distance. The sky has no centre and no favourites. It only looks that way from wherever you stand. And from where you stand tonight, Vega is the bright one, the lead light of the warm dark, the brightest string of the heavenly harp, the once and future crown of the turning world. It happens to be near, and so it happens to be brilliant, and so it happens to be yours this summer, to find and to rest your eyes upon. Of all the places in all the universe a person might gaze up from, you are gazing from the one where this particular star shines fifth brightest in the whole sky, close enough to be a faithful companion of your nights, far enough to be only ever a calm and gentle light, a bright near star for a small near world on this one quiet night. Think of all that this single point of light has quietly held through the night so far. A star spun nearly to breaking, flattened into an egg, a fire so hot it shines like ice, a ring of warm dust that taught us such rings exist, a crown worn once over a frozen world and waiting to be worn again. The first stellar portrait ever made, the zero from which all the sky's brightness is counted. All of it gathered into one small white spark you could cover with a fingertip, giving no sign of any of it, simply shining. The most ordinary seeming light, with the most extraordinary story folded silently inside, and not one fragment of that story asks anything of you. The star does not need to be understood, or remembered, or held. It has carried its wonders for hundreds of millions of years without a single witness, and will carry them for ages more after this night is long forgotten. You were never meant to keep any of it. You were only meant perhaps to lie here for a little while beneath it, and feel the soft astonishment of it, and then let it all drift gently away as sleep comes up to meet you, the way the dawn lets the stars go, easily, without grasping, without loss. So there is nothing left to do now but rest beneath that faithful light, and let the long catalogue of its marvels settle into the dark behind you, asking nothing, weighing nothing, leaving only the faint warm sense of having gazed for a while at something quietly magnificent. The star will keep its place, the wonders will keep themselves, and you may let go of every one of them, one by one, like loosening your grip on a handful of bright sand, until your hands are empty and your mind is still, and there is only the dark and the breath and the soft, far shining overhead. The deeper you sink, the simpler the sky becomes. All the numbers fall away, the masses and the temperatures, the light years and the long, slow years of the wobble. What remains is only a single white point of light high in a vast dark, and your own slow breath beneath it, and the warm heaviness of a body letting go. There is nothing left to know. There is only the light and the dark and the rest that is gathering in you now like dusk gathering in a quiet valley. Far overhead, Vega goes on turning, far too fast to feel and far too distant to hear, flinging its blue-white fire out into a night that swallows nearly all of it and lets only the faintest thread fall through to you. It does not need you to watch. It will spin and shine whether your eyes are open or closed, and so there is nothing to keep you from letting them close now, nothing at all to hold you up here in the waking world, while that old light keeps its steady place above the slow and breathing dark. The very brightness that makes Vega so easy to find tonight is a gift of two things working softly together, that it burns so fiercely and that it sits so near. A faint star far away and a brilliant star close by can look the same from here, their light arriving at the same gentle strength. Vega manages both at once. It is genuinely a powerful star, and it is genuinely a near one, and so its light reaches you clear and strong, undimmed by any great remoteness. That is why it leads the summer sky so easily. It is not the most powerful star there is, nor the very nearest, but it strikes a rare and happy balance of the two, bright enough and close enough to be, for us, one of the loveliest lights in all the dark. There is a tenderness in that balance, in a star that is neither impossibly far nor frighteningly close, but set at just the right gentle distance to be a constant, easy companion to the eye. Too near, and it would dazzle and overwhelm, too far, and it would fade into the faint anonymous crowd. Instead, it hangs at a perfect remove, close enough to be brilliant, far enough to be calm, a steady bright friend of the summer nights, asking nothing, always findable, never quite too much. Of all the gifts a star can give, perhaps that one is the kindest, simply to be there, at a comfortable distance, reliably shining. Vega has also served as a kind of quiet anchor for measuring the distances to the stars themselves, which is a small marvel of patience and cleverness. Because it is so near and so bright, its tiny shift in position across the year, as the Earth swings from one side of its orbit to the other, could be measured with care, and from that faint shift its true distance could be reckoned. It became one of the well-pinned points in the great slow map of the nearby heavens, a star whose distance was known and trusted, helping fix the scale of everything around it. So this one flame has helped not only to set the brightness of the sky, but to fix its very depths, a steady marker by which the dark itself was measured. To reckon a star's distance from so faint a wobble is one of the gentlest triumphs of human looking, and Vega sat at the heart of it. The shift to be measured is so small, the tiniest lean of the star one way and then the other across the months, that for centuries no one could catch it at all, and the true distances of the stars stayed a complete mystery. Only with great care and fine instruments could that whisper of a shift finally be teased out, and the gulf to the stars at last be known. Vega, near and bright, was among the easier ones to pin down, and so it helped open the door to measuring the unmeasurable, to laying a ruler against the dark. One more wonder remains, and it is the gentlest of them all, a quiet returning, like the closing of a great slow circle. Remember that Vega was the pole star once, in an age before any human story, and that it will be the pole star once again, in an age too far ahead to picture. Between those two distant reigns lies the whole of everything you know, every life, every name, every night anyone has ever lain awake or fallen softly asleep. All of it fits inside the long, slow swing of the Earth's wobble, the great turning that lifts Vega to the head of the world and lowers it again across the ages, and in this brief, bright middle of that enormous circle, here you are. Not at the beginning of the wobble, when Vega first held the pole above a frozen world, not at its far return, when it will crown the sky again for travellers no one can imagine, but here, now, in the soft span between, looking up at a star that has been the lodestar before and will be again, and is, just for this little while, simply one more light wheeling gently across your summer night. You're resting in the calm exact centre of a journey 26,000 years long, and you do not have to do a single thing but breathe. There is a deep peace in being so small a part of so vast a turning. The star does not hurry, and tonight neither must you. The wobble does not strain toward its ending, and neither need you strain towards sleep. It is already coming, the way Vega's old light is already coming, quietly, faithfully, with nothing required of you at all. You're held inside an enormous gentle motion that asks for nothing, that has been turning since long before you and will turn long after, and that carries you for this one night with the same ease it carries the slow procession of the stars. So let the last of the day's weight slip from you now. The journey is nearly over, and you have arrived exactly where you were always meant to be, here, warm, still, resting beneath a faithful light high in the summer sky. And if you're still here, drifting at the soft edge of sleep, another quiet journey is already waiting for you on the screen, ready whenever you are, or never at all. There is nothing you must choose, and nothing you must do. Only rest. You do not need to carry any of this into the morning, not the distance, not the spinning, not the slow turning of the crown. Let all of it go, lightly, the way the night lets go of the stars at dawn. What stayed in you, stayed. What drifted off, drifted off. Both are perfectly, completely fine. Let your breath grow long and slow. Let the body sink a little deeper into the warmth that holds it. Let the dark be soft around you, and wide, and kind. There is nothing more to know. There is nowhere else to be. High above you, a white star turns in the dark and asks for nothing. And now, 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.